Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're just going to give it 1 or 2 minutes for people to jump in. Hello, everyone. I see more people joining us on the webinar. Let's just give everybody 1 more minute and we'll get started. Thank you for your patience. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar from models to MCP to agents, future of AI development with Docker. My name is Yiwen Xu. I'm a product marketing manager at Docker. I'm very excited to have Michael Irvin and JL with us today. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you. Please put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the very end. With that, I'm going to have JL, our Senior Vice President of Gen AI Acceleration, to kick us off.
Hey, hi, everybody. Nice to meet everybody. We're going to be talking about AI today, right? So maybe we can go to the next slide. So this is our agenda for today, right? So three steps, and I will be sharing the conversation with Michael here. So I'm going to give you a quick intro of what we're going to be talking today. The first thing is that, as you probably know, right, if you're here, AI is evolving super fast from the models to Gen AI apps today. And now we are entering, as you might heard, a new phase of agentic applications. But while the hype is undeniable, the developer experience to build and run these apps at scale is still playing kind of catch up. So today we'll unpack what's happening in agentic AI space. We'll explore some of the challenges that the developer faces and show where Docker actually fits into this whole equation. So this is a thing which is really interesting. Like this slide here is really powerful. I think like many said that 2025 is the year of agents. And according to a Boston Consulting Group study, mention of AI agents on company earnings calls jumped like more than 300%, as you can see here. What does it tell us? It tells us that a lot of people are actually investing there, right? So it means that a lot of applications will be built with AI agents, either using or consuming things. So this is why I think it's a very important matter, and that's probably why you're here listening to me today. At the same time, we're seeing model cost drop super fast by nearly 10 times every year. And the performance gap between like open source and closed model continue to narrow. On top of that, the MCP, the Model Context Protocol, is probably the most hyped word right now in the industry, is emerging as a de facto standards for connecting agents to tools, making them more capable and smarter. Together, lower cost, better open source models, and tool standardization are creating strong tailwinds for applications like agents, which are built on top of them. If you ask 5 people what an AI agent is, actually, that's one of my favorite questions when people are like, yeah, I'm very much into AI today. You're likely going to get like 5 widely different answers. But one practical way to categorize agents is by their level of autonomy. So by the same Boston Consulting Group study, there is like three things: agentic workflows, autonomous agents, and multi-agent system. Each level is more kind of intelligent than the previous. So agentic workflow, this is what we're going to be talking today mostly. It's designed with tool use and strict output in mind. So they're typically trained to carry out specific tasks, and this is the most common approach you're seeing in the market right now. We'll walk through some demo. Michael has some nice demo to show you in a few minutes. If you take things a bit further, you go into what we call autonomous agents. So this model are trained not just to use the tools, but observe, reason, plan, and eventually act more independently. And they are especially useful when you need an agent to work toward a broader goal without step-by-step instruction or you guiding him. And then there have multi-agent system where you have a network of agents communicating and collaborating to complete complex tasks. And each of these agents is actually ultra specialized for a given task, right? You have agents that know very much how to code, others know how to reason, these kind of things. We are still very early with the latter two. So as agents grow more autonomous, they also become a bit more complex, right? You've seen a lot of, we probably have interacted a lot with like what we call the general AI. And however complex the agentic AI system is, at the core, every agentic system relies on two fundamental components: models and tools. So models is the reasoning engine. This is the thing that you used to be knowing and interacting with. And tools, like MCP clients and especially servers, extend the model capabilities, making agents more intelligent and helpful for you. That means that you can connect with MCP any kind of tools that is on your laptop with a bit of code, and you actually allow the LLM to access that, right? So it's a fantastic API for LLM to access other things. The problem today is that the developer experience for building with these tools isn't where it needs to be, and not ready for scaling beyond the small experimentations. So this is reflected in industry data. So despite the headlines, most developers are still in the early phases of working with agentic system. According to KPMG, while almost 90% of US companies are exploring or piloting AI agents, only 11% have deployed them at scale, right? So you can see the differences between like tinkering and actually shipping things in production. We often hear three major challenges for developer: learning curve, right? The time at which you actually learn something and be proficient with it. The tool discovery, and especially with such a moving target as like what AI is and AI agents, it's like there is a new tool that actually pops up every day. Actually, one thing is really interesting is like I was talking about MCP with those folks at another conference, and actually MCP is actually 5 months old at that point, right? Or 5 months and a half old, right? So this is really the kind of tool discovery which is interesting, and of course privacy and security. So let me maybe walk you through them one by one. The first challenge, just getting started, right? So new tool, new concepts, new workflow. Almost like 80% of enterprise app developers don't consider themselves proficient with GenAI, right? So anyone, if you see a job description saying like GenAI experienced engineer with like 10 years of experience, then you know it's a fake. The next up is discovery. There's no centralized source of truth for trusted models, agents, or MCP tools today. If you don't know where a model or MCP server came from or what's inside it, you're probably flying blind, and your security team is going to be a little bit scary. And the big one, privacy and security. Developer needs to know that data is protected, that their tools are free from threats, and that sensitive information isn't leaking everywhere. So data privacy and security are now the top decision factor for selecting GenAI providers. This number actually jumped for like 43 to 78% in just one quarter. At the end of the day, especially for Docker, AI is just another workload, right? Databases, batch jobs, microservices, application, you name it. It needs to run securely, repeatedly, and reliably. That's where container comes in and why Docker matters. We're making it easier for developers to build and scale agentic app by focusing on trusted content. We're making Docker Hub the go-to place for agentic app development. Easy to get started. We're not just making tools available and discoverable, they're making them simple and simple to use. You can use the similar Docker tools that you know and workflow for your development. And also we're putting specific security guardrails, right? Embedded securities throughout that protect your data and dependencies. That's really a critical part where actually running things in containers actually give you like this de facto standard layer of security on top of running agentic workloads. So next, I'm going to pass the mic to Michael to give you a technical walkthrough of Docker latest AI tools and how you can use them to build agentic app easily and securely. Michael, go with the demo.
Fantastic. Thanks, JL. So as JL set the stage really, really well for me, I'm going to talk about a lot of the individual tools that we've been working on here at Docker, and then kind of show a little, we'll do demos along the way, and then we'll give a little bit of sneak peek of how we're looking at kind of incorporating all those tools together into building some of these agentic flows and even autonomous agents, et cetera. Like where are we going heading forward? So first off, as we've been looking at the learning curve, we've been thinking about how can we make things easier to learn Docker, to get up and going, to containerize projects, et cetera. And so to help solve that, the first thing that we've worked on is your Docker AI agent, aka Ask Gordon. And so with Gordon, it's built both into the Docker Desktop GUI, where I can open up in a tab and I can ask questions related to Docker in general, or maybe I have problems with a specific container, and we'll see a demo of that here in just a second. But I can also interact with Gordon using the CLI as well, ask a lot of the same questions, or even containerize a project. So let's go ahead and do a demo here where I'm going to jump to Docker Desktop and the dashboard, and we're going to ask it Docker related questions, help it, ask why is this container not started, et cetera. But then we're also going to take a project that's not containerized and ask Gordon to help containerize it for me. So with that, I'm going to jump over to the dashboard here, and we can see that I've got a Postgres container that when I click start, it just immediately stops. And I think we've all run into this before where, hey, container is starting and it's not staying up. What's going on? How can I troubleshoot this? How can I fix this? Now, those that are more experienced probably know, okay, I can look at logs, I can look at the outputs, et cetera, and figure out what's going on. But I can also just hit this little, bring some magic to this, hit the Ask Gordon button here. And now I can ask it, why is this container not starting? Okay. And so Gordon's going to look at the context of this specific container and look at the logs and output. In this case, it was just a really simple thing of there was an error message saying this database is uninitialized and the super user password is not specified, and I need to specify an environment variable. Okay, cool. Now, how do I do that? And so it gives me an updated Docker run command. I can even just paste this in the terminal and run it and try it out myself. But again, it walks me through what's not working, how do I fix it, et cetera. I can do this with containers. I can ask questions about images. I can really just dive into all the different primitives, but I can even ask it questions about anything in docs and help summarize things. Again, it's a great tool to help me get going. I'm going to jump over to a terminal here where in the CLI, I'm going to ask Gordon, hey, can you containerize this project for me? And what's going to happen is Gordon's going to look at the context of the directory I'm in, look at various details, and it discovers, okay, this is a JavaScript project. It sees that I have a package JSON. In this case, it's just a really simple Express application. And it's going to bundle all these different things together, figures out I'm using NPM, now put it into a compose file, generate an ignore file, and then it's going to ask me, hey, can I write a compose file? Sure, go ahead and do that. Can I write the Docker file? Yes. So all along the way, it's getting consent from me before it does anything that's changing files or potentially destructive on my machine. And so at this point now, I've got my Docker file, and I can see that it's picked a version of Node, and it's, again, following a lot of the best practices on how do I build a Node-based application here. So again, that's focusing a little bit on how do we help people through that learning curve of Docker. But let's continue on our journey. As JL mentioned, there's a lot of other aspects when it comes to building AI applications, and well, you need models. And so about a month, 6 weeks ago, we announced the Docker Model Runner, which gives the ability to run models completely locally with full GPU support. Now, for those that may be wondering, these models are not running in containers because it's difficult to get GPU access within the containerized environments and Docker desktop environments. But so it is running natively on the machine, gets full GPU support. And now these models are distributed as OCI artifacts, which means they can be distributed through your existing container registry. So if your organization has Artifactory or is using a cloud-hosted registry, these models can also be distributed through there as well. The model runner exposes the models using an OpenAI compatible API, which makes it really easy for me to then just plug it into my tooling. Now, there's a couple of screenshots on here using the CLI. We can see the list of models, et cetera, in the GUI. But one of the things I'm really excited about is not just the ability to run the models, but how is it being incorporated into the rest of my tooling and my workflows. So this is actually a compose snippet that's going to, when I now do a compose up, will ensure that this model is available locally for me for my application to leverage and run. So again, tap into compose, into the tooling that I want to use, and now it has new capabilities. Okay. So let's do a demo of that. And I'm going to switch in this case over to for DISA. I'm going to use Docker Model Runner to review, summarize, and generate responses for product feedback. And this particular project is available at this source. And when we share out the slides and everything, you'll be able to get this as well too. And now let me jump over to VS Code. This particular project, again, I'm using a compose file that's going to use a Gemma 3 model. This is coming from Docker Hub, and the various parameters and quantization, et cetera. It also is going to use an embedding model. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take this list of comments for a fictional product user feedback comments. And what we want to do is basically process the comments by doing some sentiment analysis, cluster them for common issues or requests, et cetera. And so it's going to use the embedding model to create vectors for each of those different comments. Let's identify what features are we could enhance in those clusters. And then let's actually generate a response back to the submitter for the saying, thanks for submitting the feedback. We're sorry you ran into issues, or hey, thanks for the positive feedback, whatever it might be. Since I had this all in a compose file, I'm just going to run Docker compose up. And again, it's going to ensure that the models are available. And then it's going to start my the app here. Now, it'll take a second to load the model, but now we see it doing the sentiment analysis. And again, this is using the LLM, generating the embeddings, doing the clustering, identifying features. And now if I actually, let me pull up on the screen here. There's my GPU graph right now. And you can see that it's a little bit higher just because the baseline's a little bit higher because I'm doing screen sharing here in Zoom. But now the models are running, and this is all running locally. And right now I'm using M1 Pro, which is a couple of years old Apple Silicon, but everything is still running completely locally on my machine here. This will take another moment to run, but I'll show results from when I ran this earlier. Again, it categorized the various comments and some of the responses. Let me turn the word wrap on so we can see it. So for example, this particular comment was neutral. But again, we're using the model to generate a comment back that we would send as a response to say, thanks for your positive feedback, et cetera. And where maybe it was a little bit, opportunities for improvement. I've noticed a few glitches lately. The comment that we generate back is, hey, we appreciate the time to share your feedback. We're sorry you ran into issues, et cetera. So again, all this is happening completely locally on my machine, using the compose integrations. And also there's test containers integrations. So if you're using test containers for integration testing, that's available for you to use as well too. So while this is still running, I'll switch back and we'll talk about some of the other things that we're doing as well. Running Gen AI applications are great, but a lot of us are also using Claude Desktop or Cursor or VS Code's new agent integrations. So the question is how do we make our AI apps smarter and at the end of the day more functional? How can we get them to actually do things for us? And how do we do so easily and securely? A lot of things that JL was talking about earlier. And at the end of the day, many of our applications work similar to this where they're going to talk against the API. So again, how do we bolt on these extra capabilities? And what JL was talking about earlier was this MCP mechanism. Again, if you're new to this, what MCP allows you to do is basically connect bundles of prepackaged tools to enhance the capabilities of my application. So for example, if I wanted my app to be able to look up issues in GitHub, I can run a GitHub MCP server, but then the app can delegate the tool calls to the MCP server, which then will hit the GitHub APIs. But one of the struggles that we've seen is as folks are creating these MCP servers, you configure them looking with a configuration file that looks something like this. And this is a Claude desktop snippet, where in this example, if I'm wanting to use GitHub, the command that Claude is going to run is npx and then identify this package. Now, what that means is I have to have npx installed on my machine. So that means I have to have Node, et cetera. But a lot of other MCP servers use UVX, which means I have Python. Well, what versions of Node? What versions of Python? Is this the package that I actually want to use? Is this coming from a trustworthy source, et cetera? Is this the canonical GitHub server? And then also, there's this environment variable down here, and it doesn't feel secure to just put my credentials directly into my config file. And this is Claude's config, but if I want the same MCP server for VS Code, I've got it copied over there as well too. So we at Docker, we looked at this problem space and looked at how can we simplify the ability to run these tools, do so securely, and do so that you don't have to worry about the runtime environments. The first thing that we announced was the MCP Catalog. And what the MCP Catalog does is it gives basically a catalog of containerized MCP servers. And so with them being containers, we no longer have to worry about what's the runtime environment, what configuration does it need, what access to the host file system does it have, and like what if one of these things has a vulnerability that compromised the MCP server. Now with containers, they're running these isolated environments and are kept safe and secure. And if I jump over to my browser here, we can see that there's, let's go to the full list here. Right now, we're up to 113 different repositories in this catalog. So it's an ever-growing list of containerized MCP servers that are being built in trusted manners. But just having containerized MCP servers, it's a big part of the puzzle, but it's not the full picture here. So let's go back to the slide here. And what we did was we said, well, how can we make it easier to now run them and configure them and secure them? And so that's where the MCP Toolkit comes in, which provides the ability to launch these MCP servers with minimal effort. I can securely inject credentials and secrets into these containerized MCP servers. And now it also gives all my other AI applications, the MCP clients is what they're called, a single endpoint that I can connect to allow Claude, allow VS Code, allow Cursor, allow all these different tools to use the same set of MCP servers and the same tools. So that I'm going to do a demo here in which I'm going to use the MCP Toolkit, and I'm going to configure, in this case, I'm going to use VS Code. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a GitHub server to it and enhance the capabilities that it would have normally had, right? And to do that, first off, I'm going to jump over to my browser here. I've got this GitHub issue that says, hey, I need to make some changes to a Kafka event that's going to be published by my application. Now, what I want to do is I want to be able to open up in VS Code and say, wrong VS Code window there. Let's go to this one. Okay. Can you take a look at issue number 19 in the Docker samples catalog service node project and help me complete the required work? Now, when I asked this, okay, I don't have any tools enabled right now. Copilot doesn't have the ability to actually go and look up this issue number. Okay, so that the response that I'm going to get back here can vary a little bit. It can search for, in this case, it's searching text within my repository for number 19. Again, it's not connecting to GitHub and actually looking up the details. So how can we fix this? Well, let's go to the Docker desktop dashboard, and I'm going to open up the MCP Toolkit, and I'm going to search in here for GitHub. Okay. And I see that there's a GitHub official server. And when I click on this, I can see lots of different tools. And one of them is also Git issues. So I can use this MCP server to now give VS Code the ability to get details about a particular issue. Now, in order for me to do so, I have to provide some configuration, and I have to get a personal access token and plug it in. We're working on support for OAuth-based flows so that I can basically just click a button here to say connect with GitHub. And then the OAuth flow would basically provision this token, but that's still in the works right now. So I've plugged in my personal access token. Let's enable this server. And now the question is, how do I connect VS Code to this tool, the toolkit? In the MCP clients, we have basically one button click configuration options for many servers, but VS Code isn't here right now, and that's okay. Because what I can do is I can copy this command down here, and then I can go back to VS Code, and I could say, add MCP server. And the command that I want to run is the one that I copied from the dashboard, and I'll just call this the Docker Desktop MCP Toolkit. Okay, and I'm going to put it in user settings, which means it's going to be available globally within VS Code. I'll see this configuration added, and I'll just click Start. And now I'll see that there's 38 tools that are available. And if I go back to my chat, I can see that those tools are now available. I can see some things from Slack, since I had the Slack MCP server added there. And now let's ask it again. Can you look up the details for the issue now? Okay. And what we'll see is, again, the VS Code client here is going to send the description of tools to the model. And so now I'll see, yeah, hey, it wants to run the get issue tool. I can see the parameters for it, and I'll say, yeah, go ahead and do that. And at this point, now VS Code and the Copilot models and everything else that's going on will have the details to know, hey, this is the issue that's being requested. Let's figure out what changes we need to make here. Okay, I'm going to read the product service.js file because it was found in this search. Okay, let's update that file. It's going to apply the edits. I can actually click on this. And I can see, okay, in this case, yep, it needs to add one field to the publish event, which is correct. And now it's going to look for various tests that need to be updated. And it found that I have a integration test. This is using test containers to actually start up the Kafka cluster and create a product and wait for the event to be published and whatnot. And so again, it's going to say, yep, I need to update this. It finds that there's already a test for publishing a Kafka message when creating a product. However, the test doesn't verify the UPC field is there. So again, it's figuring out all the different things that are needed. And it's all because I enabled that first MCP server to give it enough context to be able to do things. And so now it's updated test. I'm going to run through the test. We'll see that it's happy. And I've solved this issue now just by enabling enough context for Copilot to be able to go from there. My test passed. Hooray, I can commit this and we can deploy it. So again, lots of individual pieces, the model runner, the MCP servers, et cetera. And we're really excited about what we've got so far. But I want to give just a little hint of where things are heading, because as JL talked about agentic workflows, et cetera, we're also looking at how can we basically package all these things together. And this is, again, kind of a sneak peek snippet here of, imagine if I had the ability in a compose file to say, here's the model I need, here's the MCP tools that I want to enable for this agent to leverage. And then, hey, here's the actual prompt. Okay, using the available tools to research this particular topic, and when complete, send an email to this email address with the results and this subject. And then basically just spin it up and let it go. And so again, we're looking at how do we now combine all these different tools together to now support the higher order AI-based workflows. So again, really excited. Stay tuned for more, and we'll send links and information out for the things that we have talked about, the model runner, MCP Catalog, and Toolkit, et cetera. But with that, I'm going to pass it back, and we'll wrap up here, and then we'll open up for some questions. And we've seen quite a few come through. So. So with that, JL, did you want to wrap up, or you want me to?
I can do it. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. All good.
So basically, this is the kind of thing that this is the kind of the three main area on which we are producing software today at Docker, right? So basically, two categories and a foundation, right? The foundation is actually the secure and familiar workflow that you know, right? You know how to use the Docker container, you know how to use the CLI, and actually everything that we're building is in the same format and the same UX that you know and actually love, right? We are praised for UX for a long time. So in a sense, like agentic apps and working with AI is for Docker is like kind of the same, right? Despite Michael show us a little bit more things there. But actually, there is like two main categories on things that we're working on, right? If you're building an app yourself, then the model runner can help you run things locally, and the MCP Catalog and Toolkit can help you actually run those tools and actually make sure that you can actually create agentic apps with those tools and embed them into your system. And then the other part is really Goran, which is more like an AI agent to boost your productivity with everything that we do. So Goran knows very much about the model runner, actually. He's going to be knowing way more about MCP Catalog. So even if you want to learn more about this technology, you can ask Goran about it, like list my models, run the models. You can actually ask Goran, which is a model actually, do what we call a judgment on another model. So you can ask Gordon to call another model if you are fancy to do things. Anyway, that's the main thing that Docker is working on, and that's what we wanted to close with. So with that, maybe we go to the question, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And as we do that, I'll just leave this up here for folks as well too.
So if you want to, I mean, by the way, something I forgot is like everything that we've shown today is actually you can test it out, right? This is free, personal. If you're a business user or if you're other category of tiers that we provide, all those technology are already recent. So we want to get your feedback. So you can take a screenshot of that screen here right now, and you have like embedded links for each of those software. So if you're more the model runner, you can test it out today. MCP Catalog and Toolkit, same, and the Docker AI agent also. So everything is not vaporware, right? You can try it today, like at the end of this work. Don't do it now. Like, listen to the QA, but after that you can do it. All right. How do we go with the question?
Yeah, I have the questions noted. A lot of questions are still flowing, and so I'll just go them one by one and get you or Michael to answer them.
Sure.
Thank you everybody for submitting your questions. So the first one is, how do we utilize, I think this was referring to Model Runner, to run in a VM, say in Google Cloud. Michael, I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, so the first release, we started the Model Runner capabilities with trying to help the development workflow as they kind of interloop. And so that's where we started. And the first release came out with Apple Silicon support. The one that just came out a couple of weeks ago added Windows and NVIDIA GPU support. And we're already actively working on now, how do we basically upstream all these capabilities into the Docker CE, the open source engine as well too. We've already got some internal builds working on that. It's just not completely released yet. So as of today, using the model runner in a VM in a deployed environment isn't yet available, but will be available here very, very, very soon.
All right, thanks, Michael. And the next question, I think this is probably already answered, but I'll just repeat it. I'll have JL answer this question and repeat it for everybody. Is Ask Gordon available in Docker Desktop Personal?
Yes, it is. Right. Like again, this is like a beta software for now, so we're trying this out. Honestly, there is a limit, right? You can't like ask Gordon like too many questions. At some point, they're going to be rate limited. But the rate limit is pretty generous, and I guess like it's available for everybody right now. Of course, it might be it might be limited in the future, but for now, yeah, like use it as much as possible, and if you please provide feedback to the team, right? We want to know about how Gordon has helped you or not on your tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just jumped real quick. I see Juan just dropped in chat. I used Gordon all day yesterday. Thanks. The rate limit is generous. So.
Thank you for that. Okay. And then kind of switching gears back to the model runner. This is a question for you, Michael.
Yep.
So the models are not in containers, but they're available to containers. Is that the right way to look at how we're designing it?
Yeah. So yeah, the models aren't running in containers. But the way I like to think of this is, imagine I've got a Postgres database. Okay, and the database server is a process that's running. I can use a container to run the Postgres database. But at the end of the day, the files that the tables, schemas, and the data are stored as files. Okay. Now I can certainly kind of package up all those files for the database, and I can distribute that, and I can say, hey, JL, you want my database? Here's all the files, and I can pass on those files. He can load them into his Postgres container and run the app. And in many ways, when you're distributing, when you're downloading a model, you're basically just downloading those raw files. Like a model can't run on its own. It's got to be loaded into an inference engine. Right now, we're using Llama CPP, but we're working on other backends as well. And so when you're downloading those models, yeah, you're just downloading the raw model data that then has to be loaded. As of Docker Desktop, that model runner is running natively on the machine. So again, not in a container, and that's to allow the GPU access. Because once you're running things in a container, getting GPU access in workstation environments is very tricky and very difficult to do. So we're running that natively. Now, what's it going to look like when we're actually deploying model runner in like Linux environments and Docker Engine CE environments? Maybe that runs in a container. We're still flushing a lot of that out right now, but that's how it's working right now.
Thank you, Michael. We have a lot of questions pouring from the audience on the MCP side of things. So I want to, there's a couple questions asking that a couple people asking the how do they submit their own servers and how do they host their own MCP servers with Docker? JL, do you want to give us a
Of course.
walkthrough?
So look, this MCP is moving very, very fast. So we actually shipped the toolkit and the catalog very early, and we did a lot of work to make sure that the catalog is like interesting enough for everybody to use, and there is enough like example of MCPs which are Dockerized, because we do believe that's the main advantage of MCPs, that if you run them in container, that's way better for your security. The thing is, we're working on a partner and a publisher a program right now. This needs probably going to be out in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, we have a kind of ad hoc system where you can connect to us on our Slack community and ping us directly. You can find me there. And then it's a little bit ad hoc right now. So if you want to publish something, you need to find out someone that you can talk to, me, for example, on the Slack community. Or if not, then you can send me an email. I can write my email down here after, and then you can send me like the URL of your GitHub repo, and we can connect you from there with my team, and we can work with you on shipping an MCP into our catalog. That's kind of like the interim scenario until we have a more full-fledged feature where you will have a website where you can submit your thing and everything. So if you can't wait 2 weeks, just connect with me. That would be my answer. And I can write down my email somewhere in there, so you can send me something.
Yeah, I put the link to the Slack channel. This is our Docker community channel.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, put it in the chat. You do not need a Docker account to do. You do not to be a Docker employee to log on to that community. So yeah, I think there's the one person who has some issues. Please take a look again. You do not need to be a Docker employee to join our community Slack channel. And oh, okay, I'll post it again. Okay.
What does MCP stand for, right? I think we said it, right? This is the model context protocol. It's a protocol set up by Anthropic, like I would say last December. And this is a protocol which is evolving quite a bit, right? So that means like there is not one version of the protocol. It's kind of changing like almost weekly right now. So that's what MCP stands for. So it's the protocol in between the LLM and the tools that you want to connect them to.
All right. Yeah, do you want to take the other questions? How can I run
Sure.
MCP Toolkit on the cloud, not Docker desktop?
So you can't right now. It's like a hackish if you want to do it. It's kind of difficult. We have an open source repo where you basically at the heart of the toolkit, the MCP toolkit, there is what we call a MCP gateway. The MCP gateway actually can run multiple MCP as containers and funnel them through your MCP client. So this gateway right now is in an early version in Clojure. We actually are writing that out in Golang as we speak, and we're going to publish this in the next few weeks. So you will have an open source version of the gateway, which allow you to then run it everywhere you want. Right now, if you want to do it, there's an open source repo that you can check out, which is on the Docker GitHub repository. And then you can look at this, but it's a little bit hackish right now. Like a full-fledged solution is coming for you to be able to run this. Right now, use Docker Desktop.
All right. The next one I think you probably already answered. Can we have a Docker Compose for this MCP toolkit to run on the cloud?
So not today. Again, like in the future, we're working very closely with the Compose team. So you will be able to actually start the gateway and configure the gateway from Docker Compose and add them like MCP server. This is incoming. It's not ready yet, but this is in the plan. People are working on it as I speak.
That's awesome. We have a lot of great stuff in our roadmap. Can we extend the available MCP servers in Docker Desktop, or does it pull from an approved registry?
So in theory, you can. So there is a version of Docker Desktop that goes out every month. So in the next version, there will be a possibility for you to do so. You're probably going to have to fiddle a little bit with some configuration file that will allow you to add your own MCP server to the local catalog. And then so that's one way, right? So you can extend. Actually, that's what I'm doing every day, right? Like when I write an MCP server, I need to hack a little bit with the configuration file. So we're going to document this for you to be able to do that locally. It pulls from Docker Hub for now. In the future, it will be able to pull from any kind of registry, of OCI compliant registry.
Okay, thank you. And then we're going to jump back to Gordon again. Does anybody know if you can use Gordon AI as a SDK to API? This person, I think it's Kevin. I want to use this feature in my software.
So we don't publish API for Gordon right now. So there is no official API for Gordon. Now, Gordon is actually available in the UI as Michael shown us earlier today, but it's also available as a CLI tool. So the CLI tool for Gordon is Docker space AI. So if you Docker space AI space, and then you ask a question, then you can actually manage that. And then you can actually interact with it. So that would say that that's the only kind of API that you have right now. Unfortunately, Gordon is also not available outside of Docker Desktop today. So we'll have to manage somehow to run this into Docker Desktop. That might change in the future. That's probably a bit more far away in the roadmap. So that would be the way to interact with Gordon right now, just like script the CLI.
Okay. And then this is a question that's like both for Gordon and I think Model Runner. Can AI help me to Docker Compose on a VM instance on cloud? You know, Michael or JL?
Not 100% sure what that's. I mean, so I'm going to maybe take a couple different angles here. So Gordon can certainly help me write a compose file and put together that compose file. Now, one of the capabilities that Gordon does have is to be able to use the local Docker CLI and to be able to run commands. So theoretically, it is possible that you can set up a Docker context that points to that remote VM, and then have Gordon help you write the compose file and actually do a compose up, for example, against that remote context. So again, it just depends on what exactly you're asking that you're getting at there. But Gordon does have a lot of capabilities to both write files, but then also execute things again with your permission to be able to do so.
Great, thank you, Michael. And then jumping back to MCPs, I think this is a good question. How do you verify the MCP servers? JL, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? There's some noise around me.
Yeah, how do you verify the MCP servers?
Oh, how do we verify the MCP servers? So I suspect, how do we check them out? So there is multiple things we do right now. When we most of the MCP servers that we built actually are built by Docker. So we have our own tool chain that checks that out. So we run various software to make sure that there is no malware and no bad stuff in there. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we are using a signature. So we're signing all the images. And then the MCP Toolkit is actually checking the signature before running anything, right? So that's what we call passive security. And we're working on more like security features in the future. especially we believe that MCP server, in the same way your iOS or Android application have specific requirements toward the operating system, where you can allow specific apps on your phone to access the network or write files or whatnot. We're going to allow you to define this and fine-grain that for every MCP server in the future, meaning that, for example, there is a file system MCP server that exists. You probably don't want this one to actually access the network in any way, right? So by default, we're going to provide a very good security assignments for each MCP server that you can override or restrict more. So that's how we're going to be working with security. So one aspect is the passive one, making sure that when we build something, it's actually built with the best technology. And actually, you can go also on the hub side today. We publish what we call the Scout score. So Docker Scout is a technology, is a security technology that we provide. You can see here there is a grade. So you can see the Docker Scout health score that says an A, and which actually we check against like any kind of known security. And actually, this check is done regularly, right? So every time we assess, we build the image, we check this again. So this probably this Scout health score is going to degrade over time, right? Because as you know, there is CV every day. So that's another aspect of the security of what we're putting in there. So we have basic things today with signature. You can see the signature verification here that you can do. It's running in a container also, right? So if you're using, for example, the non-Dockerized file system, it has access to everything, or at least like everything that you allow him to. If you're running the file system MCP server in a Docker container, as it is running in a Docker container, it is very, very well restricted, right? So it's not going to damage too much your system. Anyway, that's a long-winded answer, but that's it's a very good questions around security. That's the key aspect of using a container and MCP together.
All right, we're a little bit over time. Thank you everybody for the questions. We didn't have time to get to all of them, but we will share the Slack channel. Again, some people were saying that they couldn't see it. We'll find a way to get that information to you so that you could join the Slack channel and submit your own servers. And as JL mentioned, we'll be publishing our community partner group program in a few weeks so that you have the official guidelines on hosting your MCP servers on Docker. Thank you everybody again for your time. We'll be sharing a recording of the webinar with you as well. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.